where is the consumer?
Consumers today don't follow any formulas.
Be it Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's where the consumer is. And I want to use these terms, webrooming and showrooming. Omnichannel solutions then become super important to find the right consumer at the right place, at the right time, looking for the right product.
For years, the formula was simple. You run online ads on Facebook and Instagram, you get online sales on your website. You run offline ads on TV, print, and out of home, you get offline footfall and sales. But let's be honest, consumers today don't follow any formulas. People actually see an ad on Instagram, they walk into the store to experience the product, and they may still not buy it. They may come back to their home, watch that reel at 12 in the night, and actually make the purchase. So consumer journeys are getting increasingly more complex. Thankfully, Meta's omnichannel capabilities are now helping us connect the dots. With Meta today, you can actually run hyperlocal campaigns on Facebook and Instagram in the vicinity of your store and get people to walk into your store and make a purchase. To unpack this, I cannot have a better lineup of partners than leaders from Meta and leaders from some of the fastest growing retail brands in India to help us answer this very question. Welcome to the AdYogi Meta Omnichannel podcast. Joining me today is Meghana, Director of Retail and Commerce at Meta in India. She has worked with some of the largest e-commerce and retail brands in India to help them navigate the shift towards omnichannel. I've personally had the fortune to interact with Meghana on multiple occasions, and I consider her as an industry thought leader. Meghana.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here on OmniTalks.
So 5 years ago, we actually saw many brands focus on building their own online websites. Couple of years back, contrast to that, we actually saw digital-first brands focusing on opening their own retail stores. In fact, in the AdYogi portfolio itself, we have a huge share of brands which are now massively expanding their retail footprint in the last 12 months alone. So Meghana, help me understand what has brought about this shift from online to offline, and why are brands today so leaned in to open their offline stores?
I think two big things, Anshuk. First is, where is the consumer? So we know from all the work we do at Meta with folks like yourselves, be it Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's where the consumer is. The number of times they open the app every day, the amount of time that they spend on the apps gives you a great opportunity to find the consumer, the right place at the right time with the right product. So I think that's the very, very first basic principle. But I think layer on top of that, what they are doing and how they're behaving in the shopping environment. And that's quite fascinating. And I want to use these terms, webrooming and showrooming. Yeah, and you're definitely going to remember that one.
Okay.
Webrooming is where people do a ton of research online, comparing various different facets, features, various different reviews maybe, and then choosing to go to a showroom at a point in time and make a purchase. Equally, the reverse concept, which we call showrooming, where consumers spend a lot of time in store looking at various different products, probably trying them on, etc. And then when there is that specific moment, come buy it. So let's say, for example, Akshaya Tritiya is a really important day for jewelry and people tend to buy gold. So you do a ton of showrooming before Akshaya Tritiya, but maybe your actual purchase happens online itself. So I think this entire concept of webrooming and showrooming, where your consumer is both observing and processing content in an online medium, but using them to shop both online and offline, is a reason why there is a tremendous importance of this behavior, and why omnichannel solutions then become super important to find the right consumer at the right place, at the right time, looking for the right product.
Very interesting indeed. So 2 things I learned today, webrooming and showrooming. In fact, while we were talking, Meghana, I was thinking whether my wife does webrooming more or showrooming more. And I figured out that she does webrooming more. So all the week, she sort of crawls on the internet, and on the weekend, she makes me go to the mall. On that note, what we have seen, Meghana, is when we work at AdYogi with many of the retail brands, we have started to inculcate a mindset shift that it's not your offline media alone which actually drives your offline sales. It's also the online media. And many of the brands we work with, we have been able to convince them to move their offline budgets to digital budgets for their retail expansion. I understand that you would have also spoken to many of the brands. Why do you think now is the best time for brands to be taking digital very seriously when it comes to scaling their store footfall and sales?
That's a brilliant question. And I think two parts to this. First is, where is your consumer? Your consumer is spending a ton of time online and certainly on meta platforms, which is amongst the highest time spent, for any consumer in their lives. So that's the first part. The second part is, even if the consumer is there, as a business, as a brand, with the outcomes that I'm supposed to deliver, be it an online sale or be it a store footfall, am I able to reach that consumer in a cost-efficient and effective manner? And I think that second part is where Meta, we have done a tremendous work over the past 12, 18 months with our omnichannel retail solutions, where you're able to, as a brand or business, set up campaigns which allow you to find the consumer who is in market, either on the web or on the app or coming into a store, and be able to reach them very effectively. And we have a lot of data which is showing this. We have worked with many, many brands. So, for example, quoting Tanera, they have seen about a 70% reduction in their cost versus traditional web-only campaigns when they used an omni-channel product.
That's very interesting. We've also seen that, Meghna, when we work with brands, the brands which are able to shift their offline budgets to online, we actually saw they were more efficient in driving store footfall and revenue. And in many cases, we actually saw 12 to 15% YOY growth in stores where we use digital to drive footfall versus stores where we are only using offline to drive footfall. So that brings me to my next question. We've also seen that when we work with some of the largest brands, they are now starting to run hyperlocal campaigns on Facebook and Instagram to drive footfall and revenue. What has been some of the learnings? If a new brand today wants to start these omni-channel campaigns, what kind of learnings and best practices can they leverage, which you would like to share with the listeners?
So I think the most important thing here, Anshuk, what I've seen is the alignment within these organizations seems to be very, very crucial. What I mean by that is, when I've worked with founder-led organizations where there's a single decision maker, almost everything reports into that individual, they're able to see the success of these products like our omnichannel suite and very quickly activate across the organization. They're also very tech first, so they lean into tech, get the right tech plumbing in place, and get the magic of the results that these products deliver. But as you go into more traditional retail companies who are developing skills in this space, I would say the first step is with the leadership, which is when you have a separate org on marketing, someone else doing, retail store sales, someone else is doing CRM, IT or tech is a separate department. I think the first step is, how do you bring all these stakeholders together with a common aligned objective and get them onto this path, saying, this is where your consumer is, this solution is working. How do you bring different parts of the organization together to really deploy this? The second piece is, this is very foundationally built on really good tech plumbing. Yes. When I say that, it's very simple. But when you have to think about your own ecosystems, for example, your first-party data, which retailers carry, is very, very powerful. At Meta, everything is privacy safe. So in a privacy-safe manner, how do you use the Omnichannel CAPI or Conversions API to plumb in this information effectively and, more importantly, real time? So the closer to real time your store footfall data, your purchase data comes in, the system and engine are able to optimize much more effectively. So I think the two big enablers is a very good internal organization enablement across functions and across departments, knowing that this can succeed. And second, quickly partnering with the Meta team, with folks like yourself at AdYogi, to check off the right boxes that the tech infrastructure is in place, which is actually very simple and lightweight as we have built it out to be able to make it a success.
In fact, certainly, Meghna, I want to double down on the offline conversion API, which you spoke about. There's a very interesting incident which happened with one of the brands, Malmal, we work with. So they did offline conversion API. And the interesting part was, for their regular online campaigns, now they were able to see that additional ROS coming from their offline sales and footfall. In fact, I remember Harsh, who is the founder of Malmal, always tell me, Anshuk, I have people walking into my store with screenshots of images of ads which they see on Instagram. And he always believed that online is leading to offline sales, but there was never a concrete way to prove that until, of course, when offline conversion API came.
And of course, you can tell him now about Webrooming to showrooming.
Absolutely. That's going to be my next conversation with Harsh. I just want to add, no such conversation is full without talking about creative. I know at Meta, we talk about creative is the new targeting. When we work with brands on the Omni space, What sort of a creative strategy have you seen working, and how does it differ with the creative strategy which we typically deploy when we are running online campaigns for online sales?
So I think we talk about it at Meta as creative diversification, where you can hyper-personalize through an AI automated system. Yeah, what does that mean? You can have multiple different creatives which you put into the system, and the Meta platform will find the right consumer for the right product. Yeah, I think the magic of this is even more powerful in the retail space because retail is quite hyperlocal. Yeah, so what a consumer who's shopping, say for a particular garment style or a color in Chennai versus Delhi, though both are big metro cities, are likely to be very distinct. That also means that the sensibility of that creative and how you showcase it to them. One of the biggest things that we see is using video, which is Reels is very, very core at Meta. And more than 50% of the time spent on Meta platforms is watching Reels. And not just Reels, but also Reels powered by creators or influencers. So now creators at a hyperlocal level resonate with their local audiences much, much better. Yes. And no longer do you have to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to select this one celebrity and run a campaign all across the country. You can use different creators and influencers depending on your hyperlocal consumer needs. Take all those creatives and put them into the same campaign, and that creative will find the right person. Yeah, so I think one big mantra I'll leave behind for the festive season as brands deploy this for sure is, as a retail brand, while you do omnichannel advertising, do you have a creator strategy in place? And how are you leveraging the power of creators to power your creative?
I'm glad that you spoke about the creator strategy. In fact, I have one anecdote to share as well. So we work with this brand, Manyavar. They are one of the biggest in the men apparel space. What we saw with them is a person who is actually wearing a sherwani and walking into their store and actually experiencing the collection of the store. And that sort of a creative worked really well because in omnichannel, our experience has been that you are not selling a specific product. If somebody wants to buy a specific product, they might as well click and make a purchase. You're actually selling your store. And we saw that when we have external facade of the store coming in the video, those are the videos which tend to perform really well. As we look next 12 months into the future, what is the one key trend, Meghana, you see, which will shape the omnichannel strategy for brands?
So I would say one of the things which we have leaned into significantly at Meta is WhatsApp. And we have seen tremendous leverage by WhatsApp for retail companies in a product that we call Click to WhatsApp. What does that mean? You see a product ad or a creative, a video on Facebook or Instagram. And when you click on it, you land up on WhatsApp. So it's Click to WhatsApp. And why this is fantastic is then it gives you, the consumer has shown you an intent that, hey, you know what, I'm interested in your product or your store. And you also get access to that person's phone number. And you can have a conversation with that customer right then and there. And we have fantastic AI-led bot journeys where these can be very two-way and very engaging. Equally, it goes into your database for what we call remarketing or further action, because then you know that this is a consumer or shopper who's given me an intent that he or she is interested in my product category and in my brand to be able to re-engage further. So I think that's one of the pieces where we have seen tremendous traction recently. So I think over the next 12 months or so, this is something that if you're a retail brand, must definitely look into and build out the click to WhatsApp strategy and the holistic WhatsApp strategy.
Very interesting indeed. In fact, I'm meeting some of the brand owners just as early as tomorrow. I'm surely going to talk about click to WhatsApp as one of the key cornerstones for omnichannel strategy. That brings me to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much. It was a very, very exciting conversation. A key takeaway for everybody: make sure you plug in your conversions API, you sprinkle some hyperlocal campaigns on top of it, and then you add a little bit of a spice of that store creator content. Sit back and relax while the offline sales start to cook themselves. Thank you so much, Meghana, for being part of the session today. To our viewers, stay tuned for the next episode. We are going to talk to some of the leaders of the large omnichannel brands in India and talk about how they have implemented these exact same strategies which Meghana spoke about today in actually growing their retail footfall and retail sales. Until then, thank you for tuning in.